Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you are. This is your host, Barun Kohli. Uh, I welcome you all to the Peer Talk Tips for Becoming a Successful Security Marketer. Today, we have with us Sridhar Karnam. Hey, Sri, how are you doing?
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
Great. Thank you for joining, everyone. A quick intro about myself. Born and raised in India, went to IIT, came here for masters, both computer science. My wife makes fun of me. I learned how to write code for 6 years and wrote it for 1 year and switched to the darker side of marketing. Most of the time I've been in security in all these roles. Now I'm doing a startup in analytics after doing 15 years in cybersecurity. One of the people I had a pleasure of working with in these 15 years is Sridhar Karnam. I initially hired him, but now he's a dear friend, about to welcome a newborn next week. So he had some time on his hand. We thought we'll make use of that time. Welcome, Sri.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for those kind, generous words.
Great. So can you introduce yourself, Sri? Tell us about a little bit about yourself, who you are, where do you work, what do you do, and then we'll jump into the questions part of it.
Great. Let me start by building my credibility. I have over 10,000 hours of doing marketing for security first. So my name is Sridhar Karnam. I currently am the Senior Director of Product Marketing, and I run all security product marketing for a company called Sumo Logic. We're a late stage pre-IPO company. Um, and half the business we do is building cloud sim. So prior to that, I worked at companies like Oracle and Arctic Wolf building cloud sims. And then before that, I was hired by Varun at ArcSight to integrate the OpenView and ArcSight portfolios, which luckily we didn't do it and we kept it as separate. And that really helped HP survive a little longer. And before that, I spent a lot of time at HP, and I was doing OpenView, and I did security before it was called security with Exchange, Active Directory, operations, and so on and so forth. So I've been in cybersecurity since 2005, with 2-3 years, for masters and so on and so forth. So just like Varun, born and raised in India, moved here. I have dual masters in management. I did MBA twice, and my wife teases me that I didn't understand the first time. Um, and I have a 2-year-old and a 0-year-old. So super excited to welcome a baby girl in a couple of days.
Congratulations. Excellent. Great, Sri. So let's jump right into it. What makes cybersecurity marketing different than what other marketers do? Is it harder? Is it easier? Why is it different? Can you touch on those topics, please?
Sure. Before passing my judgment on whether it's easier or harder, I think this is my perspective on what makes things different for cybersecurity. First of all, I think just to get a context, I think cybersecurity is a problem that we created because internet was built on trust, and everyone started breaking the trust. So that has led to this new stream where we're figuring out how to fix all those hygiene issues and bad marketing. Hygiene issues and poor trust issues. So that has led to a loss of credibility among vendors a lot. So I think the three things that makes cybersecurity marketing different is one is the extreme competition. You walk in RSF floor, you'll see 3,000 vendors, everybody saying the exact same thing, and no one has credibility because most of the marketing is over exaggerated. We can fix your data breach and we can prevent you from data breach and all kinds of jargons without even understanding differences or nuances between an attack, an incident, a breach, and so on and so forth. And the third is, as I said, this is a problem that we created because of lack of education and IT hygiene issues. So just to summarize, I think the three unique things about cybersecurity marketing is the competition, the lack of credibility, and the need for high education. And it's
Great.
not easier or harder, but I think it's just totally different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's certain aspects of it that is easy, that there's always a need, there's always an urgency. Anything happens, Equifax happens, or any of the Target, Home Depot, any big breach happens, there is a surge in people looking for security solutions. So in those cases, it is easy. But as you said, there are probably 2,500 plus vendors, which makes it very hard for you to stay differentiated and be on top of mind for the buyer. So thank you for that. Great answer. What are the top three things you have seen working well with marketing a cybersecurity product?
Again, I think each company, each product, and the maturity of each is different. I've at ArcSide, I was in a life cycle where the product. I was with the ArcSide when the product had already in its maturity stage. At Arctic Wolf, I was we were figuring out a product market fit, and at Oracle, we were pre-product market fit, and at Sumo, it's a green field where we had established leadership in one segment. And so based on my different product different stages of life cycle, I think some of the things that I feel has worked for me is one is absolutely content marketing. Content marketing is has worked excellent, has worked really well during the second stage. I mean, while which is where we know the product market fit, um, and we are in the early stages of education. So the content marketing has worked really well, explaining people in detail about with facts and data and not just exaggeration, in various formats, through emails and white papers and webinars, and all the detailed stuff has worked. The second, in the very matured stages of products, especially when I was working with ArcSight, and then when I was building the Oracle Cloud SIM, I was also the leader of Oracle Database Security. And so both with Oracle Database Security and ArcSight during its mature stages, one of the things that worked really well um, was the security assessment tool as a free service, where either it's a self-service tool or a tool, something that you download, or even a best practice paper or a survey um, that you provide as a tool to your prospects and buyers. That has worked really well because people love to assess and find themselves, and then do their own gap analysis and not be forced upon with unnecessary sense of urgency. So that was the second during these mature stages of products that has worked. The third, the last 5 years I've been spending in the cloud SIM, completely SaaS based, um, subscription based, consumption driven, and all kinds of key SaaS metrics has been very relevant in the customer in the cloud SIM or the cloud security market. So the thing that has worked in that segment is totally different. Um, the customer marketing or the meetup has worked much better than any other. I mean, let me explain. This is even though we're targeting new buyers and new logos, just targeting to the existing customer base, focusing on the expansions and renewals, and then having them speak in meetups and user forums and the conferences on behalf of us, or the vendors, has worked really well. And I've seen that working with not just with Oracle Cloud SIM or Sumo Logic. I've also seen other large public companies that are really doing well, like Datadog, App Dynamics, and others, hitting nail on that really well. So to summarize the three things from my perspective, again, different stages of product lifecycle: the content marketing, the security assessment, or some type of a free tool, and then the customer marketing, focusing on expansions and renewals. Those are the three things that has worked really well.
Awesome. Very well recapped as well. So I was taking notes. So first, content marketing. Second, some kind of a freemium. And third, customer marketing, which I'm actually bucketing into marketing to the customer and marketing using the customer. So I think both of them are very well said. Good points. Thank you, Sri. Let's flip that question on its head and give me top three things that you've seen not working while marketing a cybersecurity product.
The things that hasn't worked, I think, one that everyone understands, but no one does. It's like eat your vegetables. Everyone knows, but nobody does it well. Is
Yeah.
the fear-based messaging. Everyone understands that fear-based scaremongering, and hey, you might get hit with the car, and your wife will be homeless, and your kids will be in foster care. That messaging just doesn't work. Everybody gets it, but when as a marketeer I need quick infographic, a quick pipeline to fill at the top, even though I know it's not high quality, the fear mongering infographic, or some survey report, or some Ponymon stat, um, pulled out totally out of context, are the
Hmm.
things that we use for those quick fixes. We know it doesn't work, but it helps us get that, the last 10% of the MBO to get our bonus. The second
Yeah.
is the exaggerated outcomes that people just don't even spend a minute understanding the differences and the nuances. Like, you can say a lot of things when it comes to IT operations, or some form of big data analytics in terms of the outcomes. But in cybersecurity, some of the terminologies actually mean something. Like, and most of our buyers are certified. Either they are CISSP certified, or CISS certified, or some sort of certification. So there is a difference with the terminologies. When you say things like incident, attack, breach, threat, they all mean something, but people use it so interchangeably. It is a big turnoff for these knowledgeable, certified security buyers. So the moment you say things like, hey, our encryption can help you with data breach, or my sim can protect you from a data breach, or something like that, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, it's wrong English, first of all. Second of all, it's
Yeah.
illogical. And third, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. So these exaggerated outcomes, and confused words, they just don't make sense. And people have to be a little more careful. And the third that I've looked at is, you spoke about 2,500 plus
Hmm.
vendors, and each of the vendors to be differentiated. We talk about our siloed products or messaging. We say things like, my sim will give you a single point of glass, and then a CASB comes and says, I'm a single point of glass, and then managed security says, you don't need anything, just outsource it. Basically, every product, even if it's a small, a tokenization product, will say, I can unify your entire security. You don't need anything apart from that. That doesn't work. This is a team
Yeah.
sport. This is a touch sport where it's an ecosystem play. About 25 products have to touch each other, work with each other, and they should transfer data. They should transfer knowledge, they should transfer tickets. People have to work together. This is the only thing that I think will work, is the sort of the democratization of these data flow, or the security. So the siloed product or messaging won't work. So just to
Great.
summarize, I think these fear-based, the second one is the exaggerated outcome, and the third one is the siloed view of, my product better than any other technology. Those three things I don't think will work in the long term.
Great. I think I agree with you, especially on the fear-based marketing. One advice I would have for people creating content, creating PowerPoint, see if you can get rid of the top four slides and begin on the fifth slide. That's what a CISO would ask you. Top four slides, you're still trying to do that fear-based messaging. And if that's what you're doing, you need to start on slide five. So maybe just one slide is enough, but some people overdo it. And on the siloed messaging, I agree with you. The startup is not yet born, probably getting born tomorrow, and they call themselves a platform. Where is the credibility if you do that? So thank you for that. Great. Next one I have for you is, how did you get introduced to cybersecurity, or did you choose cybersecurity as your career path?
So the answer is very simple, Warren. You hired me. So, and I think the reason why you hired me into the cybersecurity was also related to the fact that I did understand security, but it wasn't called security. I was in
Hmm.
this technology called OpenView, which was these legacy, OpenView, EMC, BMC Remedy type of IT operation tools. But I focused on some of the products which currently now focus as a security, which is focused on identity, exchange, and so on and so forth. So I think you hired me because I had some understanding of some of those IT operations, and you helped me to integrate some of those ITIL framework methodologies. Because at that point of time, I remember we weren't talking about the overall life cycle of a threat. We were talking about detect a threat and respond to it without actually talking about the overall. But from the IT operations standpoint, with the ITIL framework, I think the IT operations had already talked about overall life cycle management of incidents. So sort of, I think that was the reason why I was hired into it. But the reason that kept me in this job is obviously, a lot of my mentors, including, you and Brian Nesmith, who was the CEO for Blue Coat for 15 years, who was my CEO at Arctic Wolf, also said that cybersecurity has a life of 50 years from now. So even even the child that's going to be born next week, I would suggest her to you know to take if she asks me is cybersecurity an okay target, I would say yeah, absolutely she can retire in cybersecurity,
Hmm.
and it's not going to change.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. I
third
think.
thing is,
So,
yeah, yes,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just saying it's not 50. To me, I think it's going to be 100 years. Cybersecurity is more like an insurance. Has been around for 100 and will be around for 100. But go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely. I think one of the first thought leadership papers that you and I wrote, I remember, was on how the SOC and NOC are going to be integrated, and how SOC will just eat the overall NOC, and eventually the Security Operations Center will sort of become your overall IT risk management hub, and then
Hmm.
provisioning and everything will also be delivered as a service within the SOC. So I still truly believe that that is, I said that 5 years ago that in 5 years it'll happen. It didn't happen. It's almost like flying cars, but I think in the next 5 years it will surely happen. And I've seen out of the 2,000 customers that we have at Sumo Logic, there are at least 100 large customers who are completely born from AWS. They have a completely SOC-less, NOC-less operation center, and the only IT hub they have is the security operations center. Some of the
Hmm.
public case studies we have, like Pokemon, um, Opportune, and some of those really big cloud-driven customers, they even Sumo Logic doesn't have IT operations. All we have is a SOC, and my CISO runs the overall IT. And so it is happening, and then all the all the cloud first and cloud native companies are already doing it. So it's just a matter of time before those happen. So coming back to your
Great.
question,
So,
I think
yeah.
you know um, it was a slow transition from operations to security, and you helped me through those transitions, and also the fact that I could stay in this for a long time, and some of the certifications, like I took all the trainings on CISSP, CISO, CISA, and all those things. I didn't clear the exams because I'm a marketing guy, but the fact that just going through all those trainings just got me excited. And I think even if somebody wants to move, probably these are the good various paths to choose and move into this.
Great. I think you touched on the next two questions already, but I'll still ask those to get a crisper answer on those. And what you just ended the last question with, my next question is, what advice would you give yourself if you were a 25 to 30-year-old cybersecurity marketer? I'm not saying you're any older, you're probably younger than that, Sri, but what advice would you give yourself if you're a 25 to 30-year-old cybersecurity marketer?
I know. So my advice from late 30s to early 30s would be, um, if someone in their early, late 20s and early 30s asks me what would be a good advice, I'm not. Um, One of the things I would say is, you know, understanding the comprehensive end-to-end risk management is more important early in the stage, and then you can focus on building your own tokenization startup or PCI dashboard startup or whatever, right? I think, but if you start with some of those things very early on, it'll be difficult as you mature to get that really big picture. I mean, it may happen. I mean, there are really really smart people who do smart things, but if I were to suggest someone who's 10 years younger than I am to focus, I would say, work in a very large work in a company that has a big TAM, who's solving bigger problems. It could be outsourced security, MDRs, MSSPs, security services, security consulting, or it could be if you're working for a company, start with the security analytics, and some of the big companies are the best companies to work for is the ones who are providing the infrastructure, and then work in the security groups within those, so understand. And then the second advice would be, the best way to become a security marketeer and understand the buyer persona is to actually be one. So see if there is a chance you can do a 6 months rotation or something in the company that you work for to be a security engineer, a security analyst, or something like that. So because I've never done that job, and I always imagine what a CISO wants, and I even speak with authority to so many people that, hey, this CISO is looking for this, a security analyst is looking for this, the cloud architects need ABC. I would rather have at least some of those experiences firsthand. So be a buyer and understand the comprehensive security before going to something deeper one. I think those are the two recommendations I would make.
Great. I think that's very good advice. So first one was the little twist on that. What I would say is I would rather own 30 to 40% of a watermelon as compared to 80% of a grape. So find a big time, big market to go after. And second, market onto others the way you would like marketed onto you. So I think those are the two things. Great. We're almost at the tail end of the Sri. Uh, where do you think cybersecurity marketing will be in 5 years from now? What are some of the trends that you're seeing? For example, I would try to bias your answer. Imagine what impact would these new devices will have around us, Alexa, Google, Series of the world, or anything else you want to bring in. How will marketing in general, and especially cybersecurity marketing, will change 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, not first of all. I think in 5 years, some of the things that I think might happen is cybersecurity will not be any more special than any other IT. So it'll become a centralized, um, very thoughtful buying process. So I think we'll start focusing from, hey, is it me, is it you, kind of email from SDRs to more thoughtful ABM and content marketing, and very structured way of approaching the buyers, more meetups, more educational. And second, overall, I think a, a, cl- if you don't have messaging around cloud transformation, I mean, you don't have to be delivered from the cloud, or you don't have to secure the cloud, but if you're not part of the cloud transformation, you may not be relevant in 5 years. So
Mhm.
some of those things. And third, if you're not an ecosystem player, if you don't have enough partners, if you don't have enough ecosystem, you don't have app store, it becomes more and more challenging for you to survive. I mean, you might be able to get the first wave of customers, even second wave of customers, but the
Mhm.
series C and D would become more and more difficult. Um,
Got it.
some of those things, yeah. And then fourth, I think you don't need 3,000 vendors. There'll be a little bit of shakeup, and some vendors will go away, some vendors will be acquired. I think the law and order will kick in. The public cloud companies will provide the infrastructure, the freeway, the schools, the education, the healthcare, and they provide all kinds of basic infrastructure, and you just have to run your business inside those public cloud infrastructure. So I think in any plugin to one of those large public cloud infrastructures, and being a big play with them, having an ecosystem will also help. in the next 5 years.
Great. Yeah, I think those are all good points. The couple that I'll probably add to that, number one would be the impact on privacy. I think would be huge, given that some new regulations have touched on it, and it will become more mainstream if more organizations or more regulations come around and talk about enforcing more granular policy. Right now, there is right to be forgotten, but what if there was a menu on what needs to be forgotten, what doesn't need to be forgotten? I think that's one. And second, in marketing in general, people are going away from click interface. Shri, you know, my daughter, 5-year-old, gets
Yeah.
into the car the other day and says, "Hey Siri, lower the windows." So that's the expectation of the new gen when they walk into the offices. So they're not going to type on Google. So you cannot do your PPC ads. They're talking
Yeah,
now. They're not typing. So how does marketing change in general? So that could be some advice for the young marketeers out there to keep
that's a
that
great
in mind.
point.
Uh, yeah. And three, last thing, last but certainly not the least, some fun I want to add here. So I will do a fire round now, ask you a few questions, and these should be short, one or two words answers. And no time, there is a timer, invisible timer on, so do not think a lot about it. Are you ready for the fire round?
All right, bring it on.
All right, great. First one, best security startup,
Phantom.
acquired, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Best cybersecurity company, prior public.
Palo Alto Network.
Okay. Best marketing from which cybersecurity company?
Skycure.
Excellent. Thank you. Best analyst firm.
I mean, Gartner. I don't think there is any.
Okay, I would not have answered that question, but thank you. Best best agency.
Um, the one that I use is a boutique cybersecurity agency. It's called Regalix. I like it. I've been using it. There's another one in Boston. It's called Brafton. Love them. Use
Okay.
them a couple of times. Great.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Sri. We are finally at the end of this. Any parting thoughts or tips or recommendations for cybersecurity marketers out there?
You know, if you don't do cybersecurity marketing, what would you do? Like IT operations, DevOps, CI/CD, bunch of crap. I think get into cybersecurity marketing. It's the most fun. It's the best fun you can ever have, and get paid for it. Um, it has data, it has facts, it has heroes, villains, it has crime scenes. In some cases, in some of the stories that you and I talked in the EBCs at HP, there were murders and blood and bank robberies. There's every single it's the best storytelling field out there that I know in my small, apart from probably movie industry, is the cybersecurity industry. So it's I love the way you can tell the story. You can, slice and dice the data. So don't wait for it. If you think you want to if you want to sharpen some of those skills, get into cybersecurity. And once you do the cybersecurity marketing, you're you're definitely much more valuable, and you can go back to any other industry and do a kick-ass job there.
Great. Thank you so much, Sri. Spoke like a true Bollywood fan there with all the mysteries in there. Where can people follow you after the podcast?
LinkedIn is actually the best way. I write a lot of blogs. I publish a lot of stuff. I'm trying to be stay away from Twitter because of all the bad politics happening globally. But LinkedIn is the best way. Sridhar Karnam, there's only one. If you type Sumo Logic, you'll know exactly who that is, and you can reach me there, and I'll be happy to help you with any questions that you have.
Great. Thank you so much, Sri. Really appreciate your time today. Congratulations once again, and good luck. I knew you would be very busy next week onwards, so wanted to take some time out this week and chat with you. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Anytime for you.